everybody. So I'm here with Gina, and this is Ernie. I just love Ernie. So if he goes missing, Gina knows where to come looking for him. But he won't go missing because he doesn't ever leave her side. He loves his mommy.
But he runs to Debra's van every time I let him out the door.
I love my little Ernie. And so I wanted you guys to meet her today because she is an exemplary example of keeping on.
Yes.
And so I wanted you to meet Gina. You've met her on To Meander. We had dinner with her and her husband in Las Vegas at their invitation. That was our first time to meet.
Yes, last October.
Yeah, and then she came to our Rice Ranch meetup. She's even representing today, wearing the t-shirt. So a lot of you got to meet her through there. And we've been camped together now about a week. Oh, and we went to the Balloon Festival
in
I
camped with you in Pahrump for a while.
Yeah, in Pahrump. And Lisa was there too.
Yeah.
So you guys have seen her on To Meander, but this is the first time to present her, and especially Ernie, on my channel. And today it's about taking the mask off, getting real, and letting you see maybe some sides of Gina that you didn't know were there and that I want to share.
Okay.
Before we get into, though, taking the whole mask off thing, well, I guess this could kind of be the taking the mask. This counts as taking the mask off, because everybody, not everybody, but a lot of people out here would have you believe that you just get behind the wheel, you drive, you park, and you live in Shangri-La forever.
Glorious
in between,
Yes.
between stops always. And this is just a tiny example of sometimes how that might not be true. So you guys know I live in Fancy Free and am blessed to have recently had her remodeled, and
Beautiful.
She's fabulous. And I have to have things very simple. I used to have a bumper pull. Before that I had a vintage Class B. I used to do the tanks, I used to do the generators, I used to do the plug-ins, I used to do all that. And with my brain injury I can't do that anymore. But it doesn't take just a brain injury that can make things go awry. Do you mind sharing with us what happened? By the way, I am going to give her a big round of applause. And I just love her.
Thank you.
And it took so much courage for her to go, to come out camping with me, boondocking on her own. She's married, and her husband go camping, but she came out here boondocking on her own with me, and she made a trip into town to take care of all the business, the tanks and all that, and she went by herself, and she gets kudos for that, even though it didn't go that smoothly.
It was rough. It was very rough. I don't like town. I don't want to go back to town. I got home and I said...
She lives in Vegas.
Yeah, and I don't like cities.
This was just a little bitty town.
And I went to this little bitty town, and it was so packed. The reason I went on a Sunday was because it's my husband's only day off, and I wanted to be able to talk to him on the phone. We don't have cell service where we're camped.
No, we don't. We're like way out.
And also I needed to empty my tanks and get fresh water because I didn't check things as good as I should have before I left, because I depend on my husband a lot for that.
It's a learning curve.
Right.
It's a learning curve.
So I go to the first... I need to get gas. I stop at the gas station. I Google RV dump stations. It tells me the first dump station's not even a half a mile from me.
All right.
Awesome. This is going to be easier than I thought. I drive to the dump station. It was actually a mobile home park.
Wasn't even an RV park.
Wasn't even an RV park. And luckily, the gentleman that ran the place was very helpful to me. We chatted for a while, and he said the only place that might let you dump
and within any proximity of here.
And we're in the middle of nowhere. This is the only town there is. But he said the only place that might let you dump and possibly you can get water is over 10 miles outside of town. So I proceed to drive the 10 miles outside of town. My GPS took me a lot further.
I didn't know this part.
She didn't even hear this part. My GPS took me out in the middle of nowhere, and I gave up and started driving back into town, and I saw the RV park that the gentleman had told me about.
Oh, Gina.
Yeah, it was, so I was very thankful, and I pulled in, and I asked the woman the water and about dumping my tanks, and it was April 28th, and that was their cutoff date for tank dumping for the season. They allow people to come in and pay to dump their tanks through their off season, which ended the day I was there.
And they wouldn't make an exception.
So they're not exactly super friendly in this town.
You'll find that
everywhere we've been.
In tourist town.
In tourist town.
Tourist.
But they were nice enough, $10 to fill my tank with water. So I went and I pulled in. I have never filled my fresh tank with water. My husband always does this for me. I couldn't get my hose released from the city valve where you would hook up when you're in a campsite hooked up to water. So I had to go back into the store.
Let me just tell everybody that I've told her about quick release valves now, and there will be a link in the video description to where if you are concerned that you might have that same problem, quick release valves are your friend. Look in the video description.
I worked on it with tools for probably a half an hour.
It didn't happen.
And I couldn't get it disconnected, and there was no one around to help me.
Yeah.
So I went back in the store to buy another hose, and they were all out. Thankfully, there was a young man working there, and I asked him if there was a hose I could borrow. And he was gone for quite a while before he came back and said, "I found your hose, follow me." So I was able to use their hose. He told me where to return it to. So I was able to do that. Trying to get gas in town, a lot of gas stations will shut you off at $100.
Mm-hmm.
This one shut me off at $95. I didn't realize my tank wasn't full. So I drove back and I only had a half a tank.
Yeah, so she did all of that, went into town, got half a tank of gas, and we'll talk about the water thing in a minute. Thought she had plenty of water.
Yeah.
And is learning how to really boondock because she wasn't able to dump her tanks.
No.
And so I'm teaching her the ways of van life
Yes.
in a 30-foot Class C because it happens. And you had your water, so you were all happy to be able to take a shower.
Oh.
What happened?
So excited to get my shower. Had that hot water heater going for a long time, so I was going to have a nice hot shower. And I have a shower, I have a shut off so I can, soap up and shut my water off in between and save it. I had no water pressure, none. And I'm like, what is going on? And I barely was able to shower, and I got out and my tank was empty. My water tank was empty.
That she had just gone to all this trouble to fill it up.
Yeah.
And so she's thinking, what did I do?
I thought, yeah, what have I done? And I came outside and I saw water all underneath.
A leak.
Wet. I had a water line leak. So while I was taking a shower, it was pumping all that water that I just purchased.
The desert said
into
thank
the
you.
desert and watering all these lovely plants that are turning more green.
And it was clear water. And everybody, we're not dumping.
Yeah,
it
wasn't the shower water that went into the holding tank.
Yeah.
It was the fresh water that I just paid for that I dumped out into the desert. And so I had no water, and thankfully Debra has extra water. So I was able to get water from her
and we went into town and got even more, and so it's fixable.
Right.
And that's the thing I think I want you to take home from all of this. That and this smile that this lady is wearing, because there's a lot of people that would be like, I'm done, forget it. Because you need to know that's actually fairly typical.
Normal.
It is. Brain injury, disabled or not, things happen. And especially with Class C's, Class A's, rigs, trailers. And you have to be prepared, and you have to have backup on backup on backup.
Yep.
And it's a learning curve. I don't care who you are, what you've done, how many times you've been out camping. Be prepared, because things like that are going to happen.
Yep.
And what a lovely example of an attitude to have. She's like, well, I learned.
Yep, and I'm so lucky to be camping with Debra, my mentor, who can show me quick tricks and shows me how to save water. And I have lots of questions for her. With even yesterday, I'm like, how do I brush my teeth and conserve water?
Yeah, and that's a good video I'm going to do. I've already done one on my channel, but I'm going to do another one on conserving water.
Right.
So, because I think it's been a while and more detailed.
More details.
And so she helped me come up with that idea. So stay tuned for that as well.
Yeah.
So that is the attitude that Gina has, and why I love her and why we're friends, and I'm grateful for you.
I'm grateful for you.
And in all of that, what Gina is not telling you or hasn't shared yet, and I appreciate you being willing to talk about it today, is that she, like me, is on SSDI and is disabled. And so she did all of this with, in fact, you are in a wheelchair a lot of the time, and we'll come back to that. And so you were doing all of this, getting in and out and getting in a scooter.
No,
And
I didn't use
you
my
didn't
scooter.
use your scooter?
It's too hard to get off and on.
Okay, all
so
right.
I couldn't even use it.
Okay, because I've been with her when she gets out of the door and immediately gets on her scooter. And so you were doing all of that. So you were probably hurting.
I was in a lot of pain,
Okay,
yes.
all right. So I didn't even say I'm learning with you. I didn't even know that. I'm so grateful that Gina will share with you today is what her disability is. And she is a member of several support groups. And you will email me at tbivangirl@gmail.com if you want to know more after hearing her story about support groups and everything. And I'll get you in touch with Gina.
Yes.
And she can contact you. I will tell you ahead of time, just so that you know that you're getting a credible source here, that Gina's doctor, even with her permission, when patients come in and have any of her diagnoses, he gives them her number. She gives, my bad, my doctor's a she too. She gives them Gina's number.
Yes.
And so anyway, what I want Gina to share now, if you don't mind, is because you've had to go to the Center for Complex Diseases in California.
Correct.
Because it's not just one disability, it's not just one thing, it's several things. So if you would, just list those, and then we'll talk about a few things.
I actually am looking down because I have to write them down. Whenever I go to a new doctor and you fill out the form and they want to know chronic conditions, I know I have a count of 5. Debra does her counts, and I have to write them down because I forget.
Yeah.
Fibromyalgia is one. ME/CFS, POTS,
Okay.
SIBO, and sleep apnea. And then another one I have is osteoarthritis. That's just kind of a little side thing.
It's kind of a little side thing.
Like the sleep apnea.
We'll tell you about that little side thing in a moment. But you also, okay, tell them what the POTS stands for.
Postural, orthostatic, tachycardia.
Okay. And is that related to, because earlier we were talking about some people have the involuntary leg movement at night, restless legs.
Restless legs.
But
I have that too.
But yours is different. It's not just restless leg.
Mine is restless legs on steroids. It's called periodic limb movement disorder. See, I've got like 7 and I forget them all.
Yeah, and I knew she had forgotten that one.
I
So it's
forgot that one.
periodic limb disorder. She has to take medicine for that because it's also painful and it can keep it doesn't let her sleep.
It's instead of just your legs jerking, your whole body jerks involuntarily, and it's unpleasant, and it looks like you're a freak, meth addict or something when you're just kind of jerking around at night.
Body Tourette's.
Body Tourette's. That's a great word for it. Body Tourette's, and it comes with a lot of pain in the joints.
And I'm kind of leading her through this, and we're jumping around, and I hope that you're able to follow it. But, the little side thing that she mentioned, the osteoarthritis, that little side thing that Gina is referencing is causing you to have a hip replacement.
Correct.
And this is your last outing before going home and having a full hip replacement. Yes. And Gina is young. I'm not going to make her tell her age on the World Wide Web, but she's a lot younger than me.
Yes.
And so out of that list of 5, and then we added the body Tourette's.
The body Tourette's.
The osteo was a small one to her, and yet she's having a full hip replacement when she gets home.
Yeah.
What I have learned from you off of that list, and I don't know which one this falls under, but I did, as well as I know you, I did not realize she wears is it a Fitbit or an Apple Watch? A Fitbit. And her heart rate cannot get over a certain rate or she passes out. And that's why one of the reasons why you have a scooter and a wheelchair. One of the reasons.
Correct.
And I don't think that had registered with me, the significance of that, and it's part of the complex disease disorder. But so stress has to be managed, activity has to be managed, walking has to be managed, and you are one of the lucky ones, if I may say so.
Very
and
lucky.
I say that about me.
Privileged.
I say lucky and privileged because not just because I'm above ground and not drooling, but I went through TBI rehab with so many people that could never get to do what I get to do, and so you and I both count our blessings every day. but it takes constant monitoring.
Yes.
It takes constant
It's a full-time job.
vigilance.
Full-time job.
And even with that, so like I'm skipping today. I wasn't sure we were going to get to do this interview, and she's leaving tomorrow, so I was really kind of getting uptight about it. But we've had all day, and Gina walked me through it. We helped each other, and so you're getting on camera two people that are literally like holding
each other
up, and to present this to you, because it really wasn't about to happen. So and thank you for that. But one of the reasons that you say you're one of the lucky ones is you were housebound and bedridden for what, 2 years?
I was almost completely housebound for 2 years. I was mostly bedridden, bed or recliner.
Yeah.
And I would use a walker to get to the bathroom. Sometimes my husband would carry me.
Yeah.
It was horrid.
And you thought that was going to be your life.
I thought that was the end of my life, and that my husband and I both thought that I was dying. It felt like all of my organs were shutting down.
In a way they were.
And in a way they were, yes, you're correct. And I call ME/CFS the disease that keeps on giving because it never comes alone. It comes with other diseases. And that was part of it. Vitamin malabsorption, no matter what I ate, I just continuously lost weight. And everything would go through me. It was just a miserable existence. And my faith kept me from taking my own life, which is the number one.
And I've talked about having gotten there before.
And it's just where you're praying for God to take you, because it's like
I'm okay if I don't wake up in the morning.
I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
This is not any way for anybody to live. And even in that state, I was still better off than a good portion of people with that disease.
And we've been talking about that. There are people that have a myriad of diseases, let alone the ME/CFS, and we'll talk about that in just a moment, that are 20 years old and bedridden in nursing homes. And I know. And we're going to come back with some good news in a minute that just happened yesterday. Give a high five. We're really celebrating it, so stay tuned for that. And first, Gina, please tell them just what the ME stands for.
ME is Myalgic Encephalomyelitis.
So I asked her to say it because I will mess it up. And this disease had always been known by that until in the 80s when they came up with the CFS.
Chronic fatigue syndrome.
And CDC decided that it was mass hysteria, and it pretty much got written, not literally, but pretty much got written out of the PDRs. And now they've come back and they've realized that it's a worldwide disease, and it is now ME/CFS, and you have all the other stuff going on too.
Yes.
So it took them a good while to figure it out for you.
I was very fortunate in that my doctor, my internist, had that one page about...
Just takes one good doctor, everybody.
She had that one page about chronic fatigue syndrome. And I had been a patient of hers for so many years. She had diagnosed me with the fibromyalgia. She'd seen my decline, and she knew what it was right away, because I was in such a horrible state that she said, I know what you have. I don't have any way of proving that's what you have, but I know this is what you have. I don't know anything about the disease. So go home, see if you can find a support group, and learn everything you can, and then come back and we'll try things that you find.
Yeah.
So basically it was left up to me to learn about the illness, learn about treatments, and go back to my doctor and get the help I could get from her.
And I say every day that technology has saved my life. Technology keeps me out here. Technology keeps me independent. Technology helped me, and I'm a member of worldwide support groups for traumatic brain injury. We continue to lift each other up. Your support groups continue to lift each other up. And it took 1.5 years for them to figure out that I have scar tissue building up, and I was diagnosed with everything from menopause, give me a break, to they tried TIAs to see if it was mini strokes, and I got written off. I had one doctor suggest I go to, they said, have you considered going to a psychiatrist?
Yes.
And the whole time I had scar tissue building up, and who knows what might have happened if I'd had my brain surgery sooner. We won't go there, but I want you to, if you're watching this and you're at that hopeless state that both of us have been at. Remember, it just takes one doctor, one support group, one person to carry you over that threshold, and then life changes and you can be out. You could be out camping. Even the people that you know that don't ever get out of their wheelchair are able now to start living better, fuller lives. And it just don't give up. That keep on keeping on is so important. And yesterday, guess what? The world is about to change around ME/CFS because doctors now can, not decidedly, let me get the word, my brain injury's kicking in, hold on. Doctors can now, not undecisively, can now categorically diagnose it, and that is because
Dr. Ron Davis at Stanford University, whose son, he is a world-renowned genome scientist. He's a Nobel laureate. His son is one of the worst cases of ME/CFS that's documented. He's a genius, and he is my hero. He's my hero. But he is the scientist that's been working on this for years with all private funds. All this is privately funded.
Because the government does
not
believe in it. Now they're going to have
research. Well, yesterday when we went into town, because we don't have cell service out here, I had a text from my husband, said, "Congratulations, Dr. Davis found a biomarker," which means that anybody that has these symptoms can go and have a blood test, and they can say, "Oh my gosh, you have ME/CFS."
You can now be tested for it, and they have the biomarker, and that means treatment.
And now treatments are coming because they can, it's just, in the world of research, this is the huge light bulb, and it's going to still take time before this gets to market and you know all that happens. But this is the breakthrough we've been waiting for years. This is the breakthrough that we've been fundraising for years because we can't get any money from our government. So it's mostly patients and families donating the money.
And committed scientists and physicians and people that have relatives that they see living in this horrible disease that is degenerative without it being arrested, and can literally you live your life in bed, in-house. And
the average time for a person with ME/CFS to be diagnosed is 7 years. That's the average. And what
because they rule out everything else.
In order for me to get diagnosed, even though my doctor said, "No, you have this," I don't know anything about that, but she still had to rule out MS and some other diseases. So I had to go have a brain MRI. I had to have all these other tests, even though she knew that I didn't have those diseases from my symptoms. She had to do that for my diagnosis. And fortunately, I'm privileged enough to have the funds to go to California and see a specialist, one of maybe 6 specialists in the entire United States that has studied this illness and treats it experimentally.
And because that is so unique, would you be willing to share with them the Center for Complex Diseases in San Diego, that doctor's name?
Up by north of San Jose.
San Jose. I keep saying San Diego, so erase that and say San Jose.
It's actually in Mountain View, California, just outside of Palo Alto, not too far from Stanford University. The 2 doctors that have opened the Center for Complex Diseases have actually trained with Open Medicine Institute, which is the umbrella that Dr. Davis and his team work under. So they are the top doctors in the nation. They're dedicated. Dr. Kaufman and Dr. Chheda run this clinic, and they are dedicated to us that don't have the help.
And so that information will be in the video description. And so be sure and check it out if you're interested. And if the support groups that Gina belongs to and that her doctor sends patients to her for are, we're not going to list those, but if you contact me at tbivangirl@gmail.com, I'll get you in touch with Gina and she can take it from there. So the bottom line, and also I just want to back up because one thing I realized we didn't say in all of that, at your worst you had brain swelling.
Well, myalgic encephalomyelitis, if you tear the words down like you did back in junior high school and have to know that, it stands for brain inflammation and muscle pain.
There you go.
So that's the basic words.
Yeah.
So ME/CFS is a neuroimmune condition. It affects the immune system. It causes inflammation in the brain. It causes inflammation throughout the entire body. So there's no organs left unaffected.
In fact, you have, like you said, POTS and SIBO, and for you, that came under the umbrella of the ME/CFS.
Correct.
People can have POTS and SIBO
Yes.
without having ME/CFS.
Yes, they are separate illnesses.
But it often comes together.
Correct.
And so in case anybody's watching this that have those symptoms, tell people again what the POTS and the SIBO is.
POTS is where your blood pressure and your heart rate don't regulate. So when I stand up, my heart rate goes sky high and my blood pressure drops, and that's what causes you to pass out. So I'm on medication that helps that. SIBO is small intestinal bacteria overgrowth, and what it causes is symptoms similar to IBS. So doctors thought I had IBS, which is irritable bowel syndrome, but what I actually had was SIBO. It's where all the good bacteria disappears from your small intestine and your body can't absorb vitamins anymore.
Yeah.
So you're not getting any nutrients no matter what you eat. You're not getting nutrients. So I have I still have that condition, but my symptoms are gone.
Yeah.
ME/CFS.
Because you can, if you get diagnosed properly and you can get the correct help,
Correct, yes.
it can be
Life-changing.
It is life-changing.
Life-changing.
And it can be manageable for everybody. That's varying degrees, obviously.
Right.
I mean, I like I said, with my brain injury, I know I'm one of the blessed ones, one of the lucky ones. And Gina is with her ME/CFS and the other conditions she has. But it can be improved greatly no matter what if you get the right help.
Correct. And one thing I wanted to say about ME/CFS, and that's another reason that I'm in the wheelchair, is ME/CFS is when your body has no energy.
Yeah.
Your body does not make any energy. That's why so many people are bedridden and they can't even speak.
And as a biologist, energy comes from the mitochondria.
The
You didn't even know I knew that, did you? Again, it's a genome immunodeficiency
Correct.
disease
Yes.
that now has a biomarker that you can be tested for.
Anybody that has any of these symptoms at all, and you've been told by doctors that you need to go to therapy, or the menopause, or the first time I went to a male doctor with some of my fibromyalgia symptoms, he told me, "Oh, you're a middle-aged woman. It's common for you."
I got that too.
And that was what I was left
Mine
with.
was a brain injury.
Yes.
I had to have brain surgery.
So I do have friends that actually have PTSD and are afraid to go to doctors because they've been told for so many years there's nothing wrong with them when they're so ill they can't even walk to the bathroom.
Yeah.
I just want to give you guys hope. There's diseases out there that doctors don't know about, even though they are common. ME/CFS is one of the most common diseases. Right now, over 1 million people are diagnosed. They believe up to 2 million people in the U.S. have this disease.
That's in the U.S.
So we believe there's about 1 million people that are undiagnosed, that are suffering terribly. And I want to just tell you, you don't have to suffer. No one has to suffer alone.
And you can go camping.
And you can go camping.
You might
only
get half full tanks, but you can go
Just don't depend on me to be your mentor. Depend on Debra. I'm loving her simplicity of her systems.
Yeah,
they work much better for me.
There's a reason.
They work much better for me, and I'm already looking at downsizing.
Yeah, she is, and we're talking about it, and she's even got a rig in mind. And you do what you need to do to have the best life that you can have. Just know that no matter what, you don't ever give up, and you keep on
keeping on.
And anything else?
That's the most important stuff right there.
Okay, everybody, we'll see you down the road.
See you down the road.
Okay, you ready?
Mm-hmm.
You sure?
Mm-hmm.
You ready? I'm ready. Are you ready?
I'm ready if you're ready.
Evidently, I'm ready. Okay.